Welcome to the media show. My name is Nick Pellavita. I'll be your host today. And with that, we have some of our media experts from around the country that are going to be joining us. First of all, the host of the very famous show, Modern Investing, and also Ukraine, Russia, and China. We bring in from Canada, Sasha Starr, Dosadonia, as they would say from there. From Naked at Night, we also have a producer of one of the great shows, and we're going to bring in Rick Rosner. And then also producing his own show, who he can never change my mind. His name is Jim Eade. Welcome to the show, the media show. Now, on the media, I finally saw, okay, first of all, there's two things. Matthew Perry died, okay? And I will be the first one to admit I never saw, ever, one Friends sitcom show. First of all, I'm against sitcoms to begin with. I think they're incredibly stupid. And to me, that one was the dumbest of the dumb. So I never saw one. And of course, I probably should have seen one to confirm that. I've only seen one Seinfeld show. I'm just not a sitcom person. And let's see, I can go on. Cheers. I don't know if I saw one Cheers. So frankly, I just really don't care about those shows to begin with. I think they're incredibly stupid. Sorry that he passed away, but I don't even know who he is. Second, I finally saw Taylor Swift Eras Tour. Okay. She is a master at conning people to spend hundreds of dollars that they may or may not have. And as we went over in our last show, the average person doesn't have $1,000. Well, there might be a reason for that. They're going to Taylor Swift concerts. And by the time they're done, there is no money for them to do anything because they just blew all their money on Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Rihanna, or wherever the heck their greatest goddess is. And they're busted. Now, if you're rich, I looked at it. It didn't make any economic sense, even if you're rich, to go to a Taylor Swift concert for $500 to $1,000. It just doesn't make any financial sense. But in the media, we have, I think, not incredibly stupid people. They're incredibly smart. The incredibly stupid people are the ones that listen to them and go to their stuff. So with that, we'll open the floor. It looks like Jim Eade has a comment. I don't know if you've ever seen what do they call it, a Friends.
Can you be any more ignorant?
Yeah, no, I can't. The thing is, I looked at it. Can you tell me any value at all?
You don't even know the joke I just told.
What?
That's classic Chandler Bing, which is the guy that played.
Look. The thing is,
and if you don't know the sitcoms, Nick, you shouldn't talk about them.
No. The thing is, here's sitcoms. I have two choices this evening. One is to look at my trash can and wait till people take it out, or two, watch Friends. I would prefer watching my trash can. It's more interesting than Friends, but go on. Yeah, Rick, you had a comment.
So we're in the golden age of TV, and you asked what good are sitcoms. So old sitcoms used to, they still make me mad that I wasted my childhood watching reruns of Gilligan's Island and the Brady Bunch. Those were a crap, sanitized, lazy version of life. More recently, with all the taboos pulled from, you can show anything on streaming TV. And that's got some bad aspects where people just put on filth for no reason. But TV written by smart, conscientious people can explore more areas of life than the crap sitcoms that probably initially turned you off to sitcoms.
Hey, Rick, really quickly, I was wondering your thoughts around this and everything, because definitely Taylor Swift is an icon in society. A lot of people, as Nick was just saying, were rushing off to get her concerts and all along those lines. But, not everybody can afford those ticket prices that Nick mentioned. And that's not just for Taylor Swift. That's for Beyonce and a number of other concerts. So I think that this is a marketing strike of genius, and Taylor has definitely done some marketing strike of genius in the sense of, you can't afford my concert, I'll do a movie about my concert, and you can come watch the movie instead. And apparently the tickets are going to go in nod to her year of birth. So the tickets, if you're going to the movie, are 1989. That's when the young lady was born, and all along those lines. So this is on a lot of different levels. Seems to be
I saw her movie.
It ain't 1989 after the currency conversion in Australia, let me tell you.
It's barely worth $14 to sit for 2.5 hours of torture for Taylor Swift. I only fell asleep twice. Okay, but my grandkids.
So you went to it.
Actually,
so you went to it and you fell asleep twice.
I spent $14, the senior price. I sat for 2.5 hours almost, because that's how long it takes to watch this stuff. I fell asleep twice, and it's worth maybe $14. If I went live,
from the old fogies, Nick. Let's somebody else.
It might be worth $14. It's not worth $400, not worth $1,000. Even if you're rich, you should not go to hers. You should not go to Beyonce's. You shouldn't go to Rihanna's. You shouldn't support.
Taylor lawyer has been heard from.
Taylor Swift has tried very hard to make her tickets affordable.
Stock market, make money off.
The wonder Fed has been heard from.
You do things you guys do for a living. And then you complain you don't have $1,000. You complain you don't have $1,000. Oh, I don't have $1,000 in my bank account because I went to see Rihanna or Beyonce or Taylor Swift.
It's such bullshit what you just said. Rick. It's such nonsense.
Like everybody else.
It's such nonsense what you just said.
You're spouting nonsense. You're not a populist. We got it.
I mean,
go ahead.
It's nonsense.
Just because you don't find value,
the old bogies.
Just because you don't find the value, just because you don't find the value, Nick,
someone else.
Nick, just because you don't find the value in it and don't enjoy the music doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't value it and enjoys the music. You are speaking from the antiquated age that you are and telling young kids, hey, you shouldn't go there to eat some Taylor Swift because my old self likes to sit on the plastic-covered couch.
How it is.
You gotta cut it out.
Let me tell you, please do not complain to me. If you saw Taylor Swift, Beyonce, Rihanna, please don't complain to me. You can't get a hold of
nobody you know is complaining to you, Nick.
Nick. You roll in a different.
It's not know any of these people.
Don't want.
They're not in your country club, Nick.
Exactly. Taylor Swift has tried very hard to keep her ticket prices affordable.
Listen, Nick. Listen.
When Taylor Swift came out with a bunch of cheap tickets to her concert, all of them were snapped up by the secondary sellers and resold at like a 900% markup. So I think the concert thing, the movie version for $20 to go see your concert in the theater, I think is her trying to be conscientious to her fans, so you don't have to spend $1,000.
Conscientious, it's barely worth $20. I spent $14.
But $20 compared to going to her concert, you never saw the paying a ticket reseller $1,200.
Never saw that. Toby can create an AI thing that'll be more interesting. A little girl goes jumping up and down, screaming and screaming, words that you can't understand.
Nick, we know your country club thinking. Let's hear someone else. Shaq's got his hand up. Come on, Nick.
Yeah, Shaq, go ahead.
Behave yourself.
There's a first. Jimmy has actually said, give Shaq the floor. There's a first, and I'm normally the one that's in trouble for talking over everyone. I'm just going to say a couple of things. Firstly, Rick, yes, Taylor Swift tried to keep her ticket prices low, but because there was these ticket scalpers, she had no choice but to increase her ticket prices. I've just paid, a couple months ago, I just paid $6,000 for tickets to Taylor Swift. They were advanced tickets through American Express Black Card, right? They were advanced tickets, so I bought them before they went on sale to the public. $6,000 I paid for them. I'm not going to it, but because my friend has an 11-year-old daughter and her friends want to go to it, and I could get the tickets, that's what I paid, and I've gifted it to them because they're good friends of mine. Now, are you trying to suggest to me that Taylor Swift is this benevolent person who wouldn't have dreamt of charging that sort of money, but it was just because if she didn't, it would have been snapped up by the the scalpers. But I'm going to come to Jatovi because look, Jatovi, we love to skirmish. Here you are saying to me, well, that's what the market will bear. That's why she's charging these sorts of fees.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, how come you don't have the same capitalist opinion about anything else? Let me tell you, I paid more than $14 for Jimmy's book on chess, and I can tell you right now that if you said to me, that Jimmy and Nick are going to go and play a game of chess, right? But only you can watch it, Shaquille. But Jimmy and Nick are going to have a game of chess. Sasha's going to also have a game with them, right? And you get to watch it. It's going to cost you $50. You don't think I'd spend $50 to watch those three guys play chess? You know why? Because that's what I'm into. I'm not sure there'd be a wide audience for it, but that's what I'm into. The same way when I met with Sasha in Canada, we had a few games of chess. Sasha smashed me most of the time. I had a little couple of sneaky wins where I played something silly and we were playing on a timer and Sasha sort of let me get away with a few tricks. But that was fun for me. I'm not interested in watching the Barbie movie. I'm not interested in watching a whole heap of things. So I wouldn't pay $14. I wouldn't pay $2 actually to go and watch a Taylor Swift movie. But I would pay $50 to watch those guys play chess. But you want to try and make it out to be some political thing. It's not. It's really not. And as for Taylor Swift,
bottom line,
if Taylor Swift can come to Australia or any other country, and she can charge $100,000 per ticket,
Jody's got his hand up
and
for a
she
long
has
time,
enough audience. Jimmy, just let me finish my point. If Taylor Swift can go to a stadium and she can charge $100,000 per ticket, and she can fill the stadium, let her do it. Good luck to her. I'm not into her music, but good luck to her.
How much longer are you going to go on saying the same thing?
Yeah, come on, Shaq.
Yeah. So,
yes, we are, Toby, but you're complaining about
Shaq, you're done now. So just a quick response. I don't know who you were talking about. Some market will bear and all this other stuff. I never said that. All I pointed out was that Nick was saying, well, it's not worth this to him. All I stated was that Taylor Swift, the demographic wasn't him. The individuals that you paid for to send your niece to, that's the demographic. And in a roundabout way, in your long-winded way, trying to attack me, you agreed with my point. Is that
I wasn't attacking
you? Let me finish. I haven't finished my point. You're just trying to talk over me again. Let me finish. So,
but you mischaracterized what I said.
Shaq, here you go again. You're trying to talk over me. Let me finish. If you find value in something, you pay for that thing the value that you feel it is worth. So if Shaq, just as you said, if she can charge $1,000 per ticket and people find value and say it's worth $1,000 per ticket, let her do that. It's not for you. You're not that demographic for Taylor Swift. So again, us yelling, hey, you young kids, you shouldn't play Taylor Swift. I don't like that music.
That's not what I said to Toby. And again, as usual, you mischaracterized.
Let Nick go.
You've mischaracterized what I said to Toby.
There's no point in being on these shows if you're going to talk over each other.
Let me respond. Please let me respond.
No point in being on these shows. This is going to be
based on his logic, Donald Trump's case should be dismissed.
Nonsense,
Because Toby goes, well, if that's his value in his mind and it's worth it to him, then that's what it's worth.
It's illegal. It's not illegal to buy Taylor Swift content. Well, you guys make a comparison that's just.
Get rid of Donald Trump.
Can I respond? Can I respond? Before you guys go down some other ridiculous path, can I just respond real quick?
Go ahead and
Is that okay or no?
Go ahead and respond, Shaquille.
Go ahead, Shaquille.
So once again, I didn't say $1,000 a ticket. I said $100,000 a ticket. What I said to you, Toby, about that was, what I said to you about that was, why is it that you're going to sit there and attack, for example, someone like myself who charges a percentage of the profits I earn for people. Apparently, I'm an evil capitalist. But when it comes to somebody who is supported by the left, such as Taylor Swift, it's perfectly okay that she's making all this money. It's the same thing. It's the same issue. If somebody is prepared to pay me a whole heap of money because of the money I earn them, or if somebody is prepared to pay somebody a whole heap of money to be the CEO of the company, okay, why is not that exactly the same thing as if people are prepared to pay a whole heap of money to go see Taylor Swift? Why is it not exactly the same?
It's completely different, is why.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where in the world this whole connection is. It's not in the room. It's not in the trash bag.
No. I'm asking. Stop, Jim. I'm asking a genuine question.
Yeah. One
if you say it's a different thing, please tell me why it's different.
I would be glad to, Shaq, if you stop talking. Please stop talking. All right, now. When I pay,
sorry, Jim. I gave you the floor when it wasn't going to you, so don't do like that to me.
You gave him the floor.
Let me talk.
I talked over Nick. I talked over Nick in order to give you the floor.
And again, okay. Now,
it's on you.
Do I have the floor, please?
Yes.
Everyone else has stopped. Okay. All right. Now, when people buy for whatever it is, that's what they pay for if they value it. And now, if I'm a country club lawyer and I'm drinking our little Palmers with my other country club lawyers and we don't like Taylor Swift music, I don't go around saying people who go to Taylor Swift concerts are stupid. That makes me a jackass. Now, if I have a beef with a CEO making millions of dollars and the workers are being paid sub-minimum wage, then I have a beef with them. Not with capitalism. It's not the same thing. I have no beef with you making $1 billion, Shaq. No beef whatsoever. Unless you're doing it the way Donald Trump did it, which is illegal, which means he should be behind bars. Now, there's different things. There are people that are doing things legally, and you could applaud them. Like, I don't like Elon Musk, but he did it the right way. I'm not friends with Bill Gates, but he did it the right way. I don't have any problems with their wealth. But if you're doing it illegal, if you're stabbing people in the back, if you're stepping on people's necks to get a leg up, then I got a problem with you. And those are two different things, Shaq. Don't conflate them.
That's not what No, hang on.
That's what you said. I said, now shut up and let someone else talk.
It goes Rick and then Sasha.
That wasn't even the
let someone else talk.
Yeah, Rick is next, and then Sasha.
Attack me, and then tell me that someone else talks.
I responded to you.
That wasn't even the accusation that I made.
Nobody cares. Let Rick go, please.
Rick,
part of the I don't give a shit to Toby. That wasn't the accusation that I made. That was a quick 10 seconds.
Nobody cares about your personal feelings right now. Let Rick go.
So part of the situation with crazy concert ticket prices is due to the collapse of the traditional album-based music industry, where artists can't make much money. And correct me if I'm wrong, off of like issuing albums anymore. The only way they make money is by touring and selling concert tickets for a crazy price. Taylor Swift or her people are really smart, and they're trying to introduce a market to capture the money of the people who can't afford $500 for a ticket by turning concerts into movies that are going to go for $20 a ticket.
Hey, Rick, and Sasha, I'm going to turn to you as well, but Rick, just a quick response to you. I actually had the pleasure yesterday of conversating with a college professor that teaches in music and everything, and he actually said what you just said, which is that a number of the millennials aren't even worried about buying albums or anything else because they're even wondering why they should pay for music when they can get the music pretty much for free off of digital downloads and other things along those lines. So as a professor from North Carolina Central University, a very prominent music school here in Durham, and Mr. Trower, that is the point that he brought up after they had done an event at the Cultural Arts Center that I work at. And I'm sure that Toby can even agree with that as well, because a lot of these young people are saying, hey, why am I even buying an album? I can get it off of the internet for pretty much free.
Yeah, Sasha.
Well, albums is a thing of the past, as we all would agree on that. But let me ask you this: you have to divide this phenomena of Taylor Swift and other popular stars and compare it. You cannot say that this is bad or this is good without comparing something to something. What were the vocal stars of the past, especially female vocalists? If you go a little bit farther, you will go to, say, Ella Fitzgerald, then you'll go to Barbara Streisand, then you will go to Whitney Houston. And that would be, well, there are a few others who are, of course, phenomenal stars of the past. Now, they were great because of their music material, because their relevance, because their delivery style. So there were a lot of things that would become into one package, and people would appreciate that complete package and pay prices for their records, for live shows and whatever it is. It was very natural process. Now here comes something what didn't exist at that days. Here is a social media. Now social media makes this basically talented women, female singers, they make them a mega stars. They're bigger than Jesus Christ by far. They're bigger than anything else. And to see these stars alive, some people, not all people, but some people, are prepared to pay hundreds of dollars. This is a great success of social media. I don't have enough information to analyze how those stars are directly involved in manipulating this public opinion and make people willing to pay this money. Maybe this their managers are doing, or their boyfriends, husbands, etc. And but that's how it's done. And so here's the result: you have inferior singers compared to those singers from the past. If you, even if you can hear today's interpretation of same material, what those mentioned by, that I mentioned a few minutes ago, singers. Take Whitney Houston, her interpretation of American Anthem, second to none's masterpiece. Nobody will ever touch it. But okay, that was her time before social media. So now with social media, you can take basically, you can go to nightclub, take a go-go dancer, and work with her for a couple of weeks, and she will become a star singer, because you can now, with this sophisticated recording technique, you can make any voice into a great voice. Find a couple of talented people here and there, so they will create a more or less good song with a good arrangement. It will become a great song. So you have a great singer, great song. Social media, now here comes $900 a ticket. So this is, in a way, it's just kind of a loop. And if you want to be in the loop and pay $900, nobody will stop you. If you want to be outside that loop, please do.
It wasn't there a form of social media. As many of y'all know, I came out of the world of radio and included some other worlds, but I would argue that radio and even early TV was our version of social media even before I was born. I'm thinking about a star that was born in the early 1900s and became an international star, and it was partly because of the backings that she got from those media of that time, and that was the late great Josephine Baker and everything. But she definitely had some media push and became an international star because of some of the support that she got from the media of the time.
I don't think about it. Jimmy.
Yes. Yeah, I think Jacoby had his hand up first.
Okay.
No, I think you had it first.
I wanted to say, first off, a mother with a single mother with 3 children is not buying Taylor Swift concert tickets. It's a question of taste, and I think it was really a sad commentary on our show that we would take issue with people that want to buy tickets to a Taylor Swift concert. But I wanted to go back to Matthew Perry, because Matthew Perry was a star, but he was also an addict, and he died. The circumstances are not clear yet, but he was in and out of rehab facilities. And above my head, you can see the book Freedom. It was a story of my own troubles with addiction and my own recovery. I was able to recover. Matthew Perry never did. This is the thing that's going on throughout our country now, and it's something we don't talk about. It's that addiction, whether it's fentanyl, whether it's heroin, whether it's alcohol, whatever it is, it's all around us, yet we're not supposed to talk about it. And, I wrote this book to get the word out that there are many programs out there, many rehab facilities that are different, have different approaches. They're pantheistic, non-theistic, theistic. There's all sorts of recovery places. And Matthew Perry just didn't find the right one for him. And it's when you have a trouble with addiction, find what works for you. Don't let anyone else tell you what it is. Find out what works for you. Thanks.
Fentanyl and opioids kill 100,000 Americans a year. Yeah. It's a fairly new problem, but
But Rick, and I was going to actually defer to Shaquille, and I see your hand up as well, Jacoby. But actually, how much, and this is actually a question for everybody on the panel, is how much should we tell these stories, even of the addictions? I hear what you're saying about Matthew Perry, but I had the pleasure of watching a film about Brother Youssef, who is a jazz icon here. He definitely was dealing with some of those same demons around heroin and everything. And that's something that the filmmakers are trying to struggle with, is how much to talk about his humanity, because he was very much of a humane person and did a lot in the humanities in terms of being kind to folks, but he was dealing with that struggle, and that's a balancing act that they're trying to figure out in this film that's going to come out next year, is how much to put that in the story and everything. So I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts as to how much should that be in any story, because a lot of times these demons are there, whether it was Brother Youssef or whether it was Matthew Perry.
Great question. I've got a response.
Yes, please. Please.
You're up, Jim.
Okay. In certain recovery programs, they have a vow of anonymity, which means you don't talk. You don't say anybody's there. You don't say what anybody else said. And it's a precious thing because you don't want to out anybody else. And so their anonymity is precious. And now I look at it a little bit differently. I've been to many different types of programs, Buddhist-based, yoga-based, 12-step-based, different types of programs, and I've come to my own conclusions about this. And I learned this from the gay community, is, you don't out anybody else, but you can be out yourself. And you can hold your head high, look people in the eye, and be proud that you made it. You recovered. Whether it's cancer, I recovered from that. Whether it's addiction, I recovered from that. And I'm not ashamed of it. And I'll talk about it. And I'll go on any program and talk to anybody about it. I don't care. So my anonymity is out there, but I won't out anyone else ever.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Any other thoughts on that? Jacoby, you had your hand up.
Shaquille was up.
Oh, they're deferring to
I'll
each
let you
other.
go first, Toby. I'll let you go first, and then I'll
Deferring to
respond.
each other. I don't think I've
No,
ever seen this.
you were up next.
No, Toby, because I don't want you to mischaracterize things that I say, so I'll let you go first. Okay?
Don't you want to discuss addiction? I guess not. So can we go back?
No. What do you mean? What do you mean? Guess not. Guess not. I'm giving you the floor first because when I do respond, I don't want you to mischaracterize the things that I've said.
About me. We're having a discussion about addiction, and you're making this about me.
The question was, I'll let you go first, and I said no. I'll let you go first.
Okay, I will take the floor.
I'm not going to argue with you about who's going first, Jacoby. I've given
now
you.
You're just
I've
arguing
given you the
over
option.
this.
Jacoby, your thoughts on addiction, Jacoby.
Thank you. So, as to your question, because I think Jim brought up some great points, and I couldn't be more prouder than what he had just talked about. And as the personal point of it, having some individuals close to me in that, and I truly appreciate about the anonymity, because that's huge. To go back to your point about the balancing act for directors to decide on what to add in, or if they should or if they shouldn't. In my personal opinion, it all is based on the context of the movie, because all of our heroes, and Matthew Perry was a hero to many. but many didn't know about the struggles that he had in his past. And so the stuff that he was going through, the stuff that Whitney Houston was going through, the stuff that her daughter was going through, the stuff that Earl Manigault went through, the stuff, I mean, there's just so many things that we see our stars on such a plateau, and we idolize them. We see them as gods in our mind. It's the same thing with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift has some baggage that she doesn't want out there. So speaking of that anonymity, it depends all on the context and that balancing act of what you want to portray in that film, what you're trying to portray. Because when you touch on somebody's private life, for example, Michael Jordan, he really has a gambling addiction, but that doesn't come out in any of the films that are put out about him because he controls that. It's private to him and personal to him. The Martin Luther King Jr. had some issues in his life, even though he's idolized. We have statues and monuments about him, but there are private things that we don't really specifically push because we want to talk about the message that he pushed out. So it just depends, in my opinion, on the context of what you're trying to portray in the film. If you want to get into a full-blown documentary, for example, Robin Williams struggled with depression his whole life and ended up killing himself after that. Joe Paterno, Penn State's head coach. Actually, no, it was Joe Paterno.
Yeah.
And Paterno, after the whole sexual misconduct situation came into light and he got fired, less than a year later, he and his wife died because that was his life, was that coaching. And now it got snatched away. So there are things that we have to, as fans of these individuals, respect. And we have to, as, being trying to direct and tell stories about these and write articles about them, there are things that we have to also respect and make sure that we are not causing issues for them in their lives because they're just like us. They are people. And having dealt with a lot of these individuals, baseball players and all, they are people. But a lot of this stuff is hidden in the background that their fans can't see. And it's up to them to be able to be like Jim and have and be okay with telling. Otherwise, let's respect their anonymity. Let it be, because that's not our business.
No, I agree with you in that, and I was going to turn it over to Shaquille. But before I do that, the counter argument is in that whole conversation is also some of their other beliefs as well. Because as I said, Brother Youssef, Joseph Blair, with his real name and everything, was also a member of the Nation of Islam. And I know that's also something that's going to be discussed in the film because there is these portrayals around the Muslim nation now, and there are some people that are thinking that it is a uniform group. And we know that it's not a uniform group. Not everybody is on the same page, whether that's the Nation of Islam versus the other faction of the American Muslims that exist, the one that is run by W.D. Muhammad, or the factions that exist in the Middle East as well. So one of the words that I heard a lot during this weekend was humanity, because that is something that Brother Youssef was all about, was about humanity and about bringing people together. And he didn't care whether you were Jewish or black or white or whatever. He was about humanity and about that. So that is something that the film highlights, and I hope that the film will be seen in 2024 when it comes out. But Shaquille, I would defer to you as well.
Well, I'll leave aside, because what you just brought up, I'll leave aside the responses I was going to say before. I'll just say I don't like being mischaracterized, the things that I've said, Jacoby and Jim. But leaving that aside, look, this issue with Palestine, Israel, which you just effectively brought up, look, I'm not from there. I don't understand the issues. It's like when I come to California and I hear people say to me, or I see the shirts and the flags, California should be a republic. They go, what do you think about California being a republic? I don't bloody know. I'm not from there. I don't know. But yeah, be a republic. I've got no idea. I'm not. It's not an issue that directly concerns me. When it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict, I don't know. Does Palestine have a point? When the British came over there and said we're going to create this state for Israel, and You know, they've taken the land from the Palestinians. Like, do the Palestinians have a point? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not from there. Do the Jewish community have the right to have a state for themselves and have like one country and the democracy, the only democracy in the Middle East? Yeah, probably. But I'm not from there. I'm not going to weigh in on it because it's not something that I'm, you know, particularly knowledgeable about. But what I can say is if the media reports we've heard are correct that babies have been beheaded, that's wrong. If the media reports are correct that there's a terrorist organization in Palestine that are hiding behind civilians and using civilians as shields, you know, as like human shields against them, like, that's wrong. If you truly 100% believe that all Jewish people from Israel should leave, I don't agree with you. My family are Muslim. None of my family members believe that. The last 7 Uber drivers that I've had don't believe that, and all of them have been Muslim. All of them have said this is not what Muslims believe. But if you happen to believe that, no problems. Go to the United Nations and advocate for your position. Bring that up in the international community. No issues. But you do not go to a concert and injure innocent people for no reason. I don't care what side you're on. Jatovy and I, maybe in person, will actually get along. I don't know. But certainly on air, Jatovy and I don't get along, right? We really don't. I can tell you without any shadow of a doubt that Jatovy would never advocate for the sort of violence that we have heard happening over there to be inflicted upon me. No matter how much we disagree on political issues, he would never advocate for that. And I certainly wouldn't advocate for that against him or his family. That is the beauty of the countries that we're blessed enough to live in. I just find it so horrendous that we are seeing, for political reasons, especially domestic political reasons, we are seeing US colleges and Australian universities saying things like F the Jews, kill the Jews, gas the Jews. It was chanted out the front of the Sydney Opera House. I was overseas at the time. When I saw that, I thought it was a different country. I didn't realize it was Australia until I saw it. That broke my heart. And I'm not Jewish. And the only Jewish people I know live in America. That broke my heart. We have to do better. For as much as I'm outspoken, for as much as I argue with people online and talk over people online, there is nothing that I would ever do or say or be that would advocate for that position, and that breaks my heart. So I think the media has a big part to play in actually bringing us together. If Jim and I disagree about what tax rates or unions should, what role unions should play, Jim and I could disagree with that. We're not going to kill each other. If Rick disagrees with me about what the Writers Guild and Actors Guild, rate should be, he's not going to kill me. I'm not going to kill him. If Sasha and I disagree with, we should have the King's Gambit or the Queen's Gambit, etc., we can all disagree on these issues. But to input violence into that, it's not necessary. We can all just disagree and argue with each other and have a beer and have a laugh. But what we're seeing right now is atrocious. And I'll just finish with this. The majority of people that are in these protests have absolutely no bloody clue what they're even talking about. So why are you passionate about politics in general or politics in countries that you don't even understand or have never been to and don't get?
I was just saying I was going to defer to Rick and everything. Just really quickly, Rick, because one of the things that I was curious about, and I was actually going to ask you this, is I've seen a number of protests, speaking of media, around Jews for Peace, and they're actually asking for the ceasefire. One of them, I think, recently was at Grand Central Station. I believe that's in New York and everything. But I was just wondering if you had any thoughts in your comments about that, because I've seen a number of protests are actually coming from.
I do have. So Joe Walsh, a former conservative congressman and now a radio guy and pundit, this morning said people are like kind of cowardly and quiet about this issue because there seems no safe place to stand in the mess to where you might, where you can say what you think, which, as Shaquille says, people don't know what to think. People are underinformed and are afraid of getting canceled. Sarah Silverman and Amy Schumer, both Jewish comedians, have come out in favor of Israel and have encountered a lot of rage from, people who accuse them of supporting Israeli genocide of Palestinians. You've got, terrible choices on both sides, and it's a mess compounded in American media and the population because we are undereducated by our news. A lot of news out of Israel, very little education about the situation, and so.
I would like to disagree with you on something. You said that both sides have no good way out. Palestinians and Hamas, they do have a good way out. Immediately free all the hostages. Give up all the top figures who organized that massacre on October 7th. Furthermore, I would like to add something to what Shaquille said earlier. Shaquille, you're saying that, well, you don't understand the gambit, I said the gambit, not the gambit, but everything what's happening after October 7th, because you're not from that area and you don't know the history and all this stuff. Would you agree that if you, on that basis, will ignore a Holocaust, because that's even easier. You can say that you never lived in the 30s, 40s. So you don't know much about Holocaust. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't, and so on. And you can go so far, and I don't think, Shaquille, that you would agree with that. I don't even try to. Obviously,
no, of course not. But the point I was trying to make, Sasha, is when we see young people in the United States and really across the Western world, those people that were chanting outside the Sydney Opera House, saying things that they were saying. I don't understand why you're passionate about it. You can say that something's right or wrong. Like I've said, I believe it's wrong. My family believes it's wrong. My Muslim family believe it's wrong. What's just happened in Israel? But I was just trying to play like slightly the devil's advocate. If you genuinely believe that the Palestinians have a point, you can express that politically. What you don't do is to advocate or to do. It broke my heart, honestly. Broke my heart to hear and see the footage out the front of the Sydney Opera House, one of the most iconic buildings in the world, where they were saying "F the Jews, gas the Jews, kill the Jews." I'm not Jewish, but that is just not on. You don't do that. Like that's not the Australia that I grew up in. It's not the Australia that my parents immigrated to. It's so wrong. And if you have a political disagreement, to me, it's the same as me going to the United States and advocating for California to be a republic, right? Because California is Australia. They want to be a republic. But what you don't do is to burn the American flag because you think California should be a republic. I don't get it, right? I don't understand this venom.
Maybe ask you a very quick question. Now, there are a lot of talk about two-state solution. Okay, here is a question. Do you believe that in order to create two-state solution, you have to take Israel and all the Jews who live there out to the sea, out of this territory completely? Do you or you
Look,
don't?
if you're asking me as a person, Sasha, which I'd rather have this conversation personally, but if you're asking me as a person, the chants that I've heard of Palestine should be free from the river to the sea, yeah, that sounds great as a chant. I don't think the majority of people, especially young people that are chanting that, understand what that means. I believe that Jewish people, one, absolutely deserve to exist. Two, deserve to have a Jewish state. And I believe that Israel should be that state.
Thank you. Second question.
I think, let me just finish. I think that I understand some of the Palestinian complaint. However, their expression of that complaint through the violence that they have shown is completely unacceptable. And again, I will say to you, every Jewish person that I personally know, I rang to express my support, and there is no person in my family, extended family, or in my friend group who is Muslim who supports what's just happened. This is an absolute disgrace, and it's not reflective of the Muslim community.
Thank you, Shakir. Second question, following this one. I really thank you for your straightforward and honest answer. Second question is this. Do you believe that Israel has to financially take on the question of a second so-called Palestinian country, or you want to call it, I don't know even how you want to call it, because evidently since 1948, there passed 75 years, and today, including 18 years since Israel left Gaza in 2005, there is no presence of Israel, period, in Gaza. And today, we learned they don't have electricity, they don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have anything. So how these people who could never do anything, even close to creating their own country, government, infrastructure, how and what makes you to believe that they will be able to do it on their own? Unless Israel will underwrite it completely, billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars. Should and has to Israel do that? What's your
So if you're asking me for my personal opinion, and again, this is just my opinion. I, again, not being an expert in that area of the Middle East, let me say this. I think Palestine has had an amazing opportunity, supported not actually by Israel. We can leave actually Israel aside. Supported by the international community. We've had many of the Middle Eastern countries, very wealthy Middle Eastern countries, supporting Palestine and saying we will not even acknowledge Israel, we won't compromise, we won't negotiate, nothing. However, the Gaza Strip could have and should have been, hell, if I was in charge, should have been the Singapore or the Dubai of that region of the world. That didn't happen. But let's imagine for a moment that could have happened. Should Israel have paid a price for that to have happened? Yeah, I think maybe they should have. For the sake of peace, let them have the Singapore of that area in return for a bit of peace, and maybe it comes to some cost to Israel. Should we have a two-state solution? Well, what does a two-state solution actually mean? Should both of those states have an army, an air force, a navy? Like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about really one state being subjugated to another. I'm not sure what the real solution is, again, but I'll just repeat. Whatever political disagreements that they have, the Jewish people absolutely have a right to exist. And if you have some disagreement with it in relation to Palestine, politically advocate for your disagreement. If you want to say Israel has taken too much land, Palestine should have more of that land, absolutely. You have absolutely every right to advocate for that in the United Nations and make political comments about that. Without repeating myself, what we've just seen is unacceptable. And I don't care what you're fighting for. I don't care how, even if I agreed with your point, I don't agree with it.
I've been watching people's hands up for a very long time. Let's wrap up.
Yeah.
Your point.
That's
that
enough.
is totally wrong.
No, Shaquille, it's Jim's turn, and then I think it's on Jacoby as well. So
No, Jacoby had his hand up first for a very long time.
my
and then
fault.
Rick, and
Jacoby.
then I'd like to go.
To start out, I think both Jim and Rick hit the nail on the head in parts of what they discussed earlier. Rick nailed it. There is no middle ground because we've lost that idea of humanity, which is what Jim was talking about. In this war that has gone on, I saw a statistic the other day. There were more kids killed in this war than going on in the Middle East than the past 10. But yet we're forgetting about the casualties in there because we're picking sides. For example, we all can agree here that Hamas is a terrorist organization. But why do we keep jumping to the Palestinians and Hamas? It's two separate things. So we cannot do that because that is losing the humanity of the Palestinian people, and which is what the Palestinian people are already upset about. Because in the statistics that we brought up before, more than 5,000 plus have died of the Palestinian people, yet no outcry. About 100 or so have died of the Israeli of the people in Israel have died, but then there's the whole global outrage. So when we're looking at this situation, it's all about humanity that we have to really focus on. I mean, yes, Shaq. Shaq pointed out the toddler who was killed by Hamas. That's disgusting and disturbing. And again, we all agree that Hamas is that terrorist organization, but we cannot place. And I'm not saying that you're doing this. I'm not saying that anybody here is doing this. I am saying that this is done. And it's done in the news media, something that we talked about earlier, how they are trying to conflate or trying to make the same that the Palestinian people and Hamas are the same. They're not. And in Gaza, there are Israelis who are
Muslim people and
gosh, can I finish the point?
Yeah,
Don't interrupt. You just had about 20 minutes to talk.
Well, I was agreeing with you, Jamie.
Yeah, let me finish. Even others that can agree. Just let me finish. So there are Israeli individuals that are living in Gaza still. And there are reports of those Israelis who are being attacked by some Palestinian people because they are irate because of what is happening. The individuals, because I was watching a show last night and they talked about, yes, it is understandable when you see 1,000 people killed in front of you, brutally murdered by Hamas, but the only thing that you understand is that it came from this direction. So the first thing you want to do is head over there and attack everybody there. The UN, all the other places are asking for a ceasefire, a pause, a breath, because there is no escape for the people of Gaza. There is no escape for the people of Palestine right now. They're being bombed from the left. They're being bombed from the right. And you're telling them to go south. Well, there are bombs coming from the south. How are they supposed to live? How are they supposed to go? So the humanity of the situation is we have to focus on the human casualties and not sit here and be so irate, because that irate is what caused the people. There were people in Russia. There were mobs in Russia that went after a flight that just landed from Tel Aviv because they were attacking Jewish individuals. Why? Because they're irate because of what's going on to the Palestinian people, not because, oh, we want to kill all Jews. Yes, there are neo-Nazis and you're interrupting again. They're not everybody's a neo-Nazi. Yes, there are people who hate Jewish people. We have to get over the anti-Semitism. 1 in 4 Jewish individuals is affected by some form of anti-Semitism every day. So we have to get past this, but we cannot ignore the Palestinian people who are struggling just as well. A child who is being killed.
This is not true. Like, it's just not true. It's just not true.
Shaq,
Rick's
you
next,
interrupted and you
then
said
me.
a factual lie.
Jim's next, and then Rick.
Shaq, you've interrupted and you said a factual lie. There are more Palestinians killed in this whole thing than Israelis. That is a fact. We brought up the statistics.
I'll wait for my turn to respond.
Look it up on the internet. Find me a fact. Show me your source.
I come from a family you don't.
Otherwise, shut up. Otherwise, shut up. I don't care about what you have to say. I don't care.
Hold on a second.
Shut up. Shut up.
Did
Shut up.
Kobe and
You're
Shaquille-
not time.
Jim,
Finish my point.
hold on, Jim. Oh, you had a point you want to finish?
Yeah,
Kobe?
my final point is that we have to remember the humanity and those individuals being killed. We have to figure out a way. A solution is not just bombing everybody. A solution has to come with how do we effectively get the hostages that are being kept out? How do we effectively protect the Palestinian and the other individuals in Gaza from being killed?
That's not what Israel's doing. They're not just going around.
And why are you talking? We don't care about what you have to say. Jim is next.
I don't give a shit whether you care what I'm saying or not.
Shut up,
Jim.
Don't make out the Israelis to be doing this shit to Muslims.
Shut up. Shut it.
No.
Shut it up.
Jim, it's on you, Jim.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
on you.
Okay. I had a show, Change Your Mind, where I had an Israeli citizen on it, and I sent it to Sasha. Sasha has seen it and thought it was quite nice. And so what you can do is educate yourself about these issues. But it was, what's it like to live in Israel now? Spoken by a Jewish citizen, and they don't feel safe. The thing that I would suggest is that we educate ourselves and we don't jump to conclusions. But one of the things I also wanted to point out was that there have been shows, there have been in real life people chanting, "The Jews will not replace us." And we had our president saying there are good people on both sides. So we can't ignore these realities, that there is anti-Semitism out there. The Jewish people do not feel safe. They made a country where they thought they could be safe, and they don't feel safe there now. Now, what atrocities that are going on the Gaza Strip now, no one can embrace that either. And I thought we had the two-state solution right at our fingertips. It's been blown to smithereens. I don't see how it can possibly be done now. So I don't know what the answers are. But ceasing the hostilities, I think, has to be first. And I think all we can do is pray, try to educate ourselves about what these people are going through, because it's heartbreaking to see the children in the hospitals bleeding to death. And I don't care what they believe in. I don't care what their backgrounds are. I see that and it hurts my heart. And I guess I'm being silenced.
No, not at all. Keep going, Jim. You're on. You're still on.
Okay. The thing is that I think we can educate ourselves. For example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, I didn't have, and I've never been to the Ukraine, but I felt that was an atrocity, that was an act of terrorism. And I spoke out against it, and I spoke out against it long and often. And I feel the same way. I feel the same way about, pardon me, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Sorry, you spoke out about the Russian invasion of the Ukraine.
Yes, I spoke out against Russia.
Yeah, but based on what, I'm not asking Sasha, I'm asking you. Based on what did Russia do wrong by invading Ukraine?
Because Ukraine was a sovereign state recognized by the UN, and it was invaded by another country illegally. And this was an act of invasion. And I think the bombing of civilians was an act of terrorism. So I think it's clear. There's not two sides to this. Ukraine was a sovereign state and was invaded.
There's always two sides. You just may not agree with the other side, Jim.
No, I think there's not two sides. And I think there's not two sides to, when somebody comes and says you don't have a right to exist, there's no two sides to that debate. They have a right to exist.
There's always two sides, Jim.
That's what I'm saying. There isn't two sides. There isn't. That's what I'm saying. There's a moral certainty in certain cases. Not always.
Yeah, but
in some cases
what?
there is.
Your morals living
Please don't interrupt me.
Yeah,
Please don't do what you have done throughout this show and others, which is constantly interrupt others. Now stop it. please. Now, talk off air, fine. But I'm tired of being interrupted by you. Now, the final thing that I'm going to say is that these situations are so complicated. They go back throughout history. And I've educated myself about the Ukrainian and Russian history quite a bit. I've educated myself quite a bit about the Middle Eastern history. I go back to when the Assyrians conquered the state of Israel. So Israel was not a country at the time of King Herod, the Roman Empire. You know, there was a country called Judah at the time. Now, I know what I'm talking about in these things, and I have no idea what the solution is. So this is a complex situation that is beyond all of us, and we should be humble in our statements about this situation. And I think Rick was next, and then Sasha.
Yeah, exactly.
Sasha
Rick.
can go.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to remind everybody when we are discussing two-state solution and who can actually afford financially to bring it out, but without financial aid, it will be the same situation which existed in Palestine with its people for the last 75 years. It will be another 75 years, and I don't think that's an option. Remember that Qatar alone sends to Palestinians of Gaza $100 million a year. Same number is provided by several other Arab countries. It's $200 million a year. Now, European Union, United States, United Nations, they have a special organization within organization who is looking only after, one is looking after displaced person all around the world. And within that organization, there is organizations that are looking after displaced person just in Palestine. And that organization has budget of 3 times as much of organization who's looking about all displaced person in the world. So apparently they are taking in a hell of a lot of money, and now they are complaining that there is no water, there is no food, there is no medical assistance, there is no electricity, there is nothing, and yet they continue to shoot missiles around Israel, including Tel Aviv and many other things. How you want to make a peace or any kind of agreement with the people whose goal since its inception of Hamas in 1987, its goal was a destruction of Israel, period.
Well, Rick, it's on you and everything, but
All right, so
go ahead, Rick.
Since the formation of the nation of Israel, Palestine has not had a non-corrupt government. Any solution Hamas should be illegal. Some kind of neutral governing, occupying agency should get. The world would pay a lot of money to Gaza, and already does, to keep Gaza in Gaza. And if it had decent governance, and nobody's ever really performed the experiment. If you made Gaza rich and non-political, is that even possible? Would rich Gazans just calm the heck down? Because Hamas is only about 2% of the population. You make them illegal, and see if the rest of the population could be satisfied with, as Shakir said, making the Strip into a Singapore, which would take a years-long occupation by some neutral force, probably not the Israelis. The UN is incompetent and I don't know, but
they did it in Singapore. They did it in Hong Kong. Like, where's the problem?
Just to jump on that real quick.
And if we go
hand up next.
Okay, go for it.
Just to jump on that real quick, saying that why don't we just? I mean, Hamas has already been labeled a domestic terrorist organization, or has been labeled as a terrorist organization already, so they're already seen as illegal. But the problem is, the Palestinian people aren't given support globally as everybody else keeps saying they really are. For example, the Palestinian people are being murdered by even Hamas, but nobody is outraged. The Palestinian kids are being killed by Hamas, yet people are still trying to say that the Palestinian people and Hamas are the same thing.
I have a very quick
So
question.
you
I
are-
already mentioned
so
millions and
easy-
millions of dollars coming to Gaza. So what
Again,
else the world has to do
It's
for Gaza in your
easy
opinion?
to say that, hey, all the
Going to
Palestinian
Hamas, not
people,
Palestinians.
yeah, it's easy to say that, oh, the Palestinian people can just rise up and do
not
this
true.
and do that, but it's not. And we keep talking, and just let me finish, Shaq. Let me finish. You keep trying to overtalk me, and it's not going to work. So we keep trying to say that it's so easy for the Palestinian people if just this happened, but we have to realize we don't live there. We have the luxury of being where we are and being able to, in a sense, vote who we want to or say what we want to. We don't have the next door neighbor being a Hamas individual who's actually watching and monitoring what we do, so we don't have to protect our kids even when we're not there. So we cannot have there's Kanye West got in trouble for saying, and it's very true. Kanye West got for many other things, but one of the things that he said was that slavery was a choice. It wasn't a choice. The Palestinian people are stuck in a situation where they don't believe, don't see, and have these choices in our mind. It's not a choice to them. And that's what we have to get out of. And that's where which I will push humanity for the umpteenth time, and I will fight anybody about that. We forget the humanity of the situation. We don't know their lives. We have Stockholm syndrome where we try and deal with women and men. Heck, Will Smith is in the middle of Stockholm syndrome. He should have left Jada Pinkett Smith a long time ago, but we're stuck in this whole conversation with him. But no, you get stuck in these things and you don't see an outlet. You have no outlet. And for the Palestinian people, it's more than Stockholm syndrome. It is similar to more so that slavery, where it's not an option for them. It's not a choice. And we keep fighting and saying, the Israelis are so right. They should go in and kill everybody. Well, hold on. What option are you giving the Palestinian people to rise up against Hamas if you're not giving them an outlet for freedom, an outlet to walk out and you've told them to leave, but guess what? You told them to go south and now you're bombing south. So what options are you giving the Palestinian people to jump to your side and rise up against Hamas? You're not giving them that. And you can say, and Shaq, you can say, just like Rick, you just brought up, oh, we can go in there and build this Singapore out of that. It's not.
No. Because as a person that comes from the Muslim family, which you don't, right?
How do you know where I come from, Shaq? So please don't make this about me. And if you're going to respond, don't let my name leave your mouth. Okay?
No. Let me not, because I'm not going to defend the Jewish people at all, because heaven forbid that I should do that. Let's talk about slavery in the US, because I'm an expert. No, because I'm a POC. I'm a person of color, right? So I think I'm adequately entitled to talk on the issue. No, am I not? You're laughing at me. You're laughing at me
for your issue. I ain't got time for this. I'm leaving. So I can't. Y'all have fun. I gotta go to carpool. I don't feel like listening to this dude right here.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I can't talk on the slavery issue.
All right, guys. Give me a call later. I'll talk to you later. Sasha, it was good seeing you. One of these days, me and you are going to play chess. I do want to play you chess one of these days. All right, I'll see y'all. Y'all have a good one. I got carpool to deal with.
So I can't talk on the slavery issue, but you can talk about the Jewish and Islam issue, given that you're not Jewish or Muslim. Wow, that's huge.
Well, like I said, it was actually toward the end of the show, and I think he was actually getting ready to go out because he also has cousins around this time.
Sasha and Rick, On air, I'm not going to ask you, either of you guys, what political or religious view you have. But I was going to repeat what I've said multiple times on this show and previous shows. My family, majority of my family are Muslim. None of us, and I don't actually know anybody, my friends or otherwise, that support in any way what has just happened.
No, I think
It's an
everybody,
absolute
including Toby, said that.
no, Mark, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Rick and to Sasha. What has just happened over there is deplorable. Don't support it. I've rung every Jewish person that I know and have told them that we support them. And look, there's only 15 million of you. After the Holocaust, there's only 15 million of you around the world. So most of you know somebody who was affected by what just happened. Our hearts go out to you. My heart goes out to you. I'm sorry this happened. And please don't think that what happened is in any way a reflection of the Muslim or Christian religion, because it's just not. What's happened is a humanitarian. It's a disgrace. I don't support it. I love you guys. I don't support it.
You just
So there are
mentioned
about 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, and the vast majority of Muslims are like everybody else in the world who just want to live their lives without, like, I mean, every religion, every demographic has a tiny fraction of a percent of people who are professional a-holes. Hamas are professional a-holes. They make a lot of money by committing atrocities and provoking outrage. But they're only 1.5% of Palestine, and they're.
Hey, Rick, can you drop your phone number in your?
Yeah, because we get to wind up and everything,
but I'll just say this, Rick. To me, like it really does. I don't care what God you believe in, or like what your family does, or like I don't care. What's right is right. What's wrong is wrong. You know what I mean. Like when you and I finally meet in LA, I don't care what you're into that's different to what I'm into. Like what difference does it make, right? We're just friends. We're just two human beings, like hanging out. The same as it was when I went to Canada and hung out with Sasha. Like we're just like hanging out. I don't understand this level of hate. And
we're actually gonna have a guest who's
I
gonna talk
hope
about
and I
that.
believe that the societies that we live in means that our children and grandchildren should never even understand what that hate's about.
That's right. That's
what
right.
What we just saw is just
there are about 1.4 billion
and everything. So it's time for us to wrap up. But I was going to say that it's definitely something that we'll have some other guests talking about. I've actually got a guest that's going to talk about the protests there on the campus. I think that they'll be on either later on this week or the early part of next week. I'm still in the process of communicating with them, and we'll see what they have got to say about this and everything. And Rick, I think that you would agree that there are, to use your word, some professional assholes in every group, including some that are in the Jewish community as well. So there's definitely some in every community, whether it's Muslims or whatever. So there are extremists that exist in every part of our society, no matter their religion, their race, their class, or whatever. So I think that that's something that we can all agree on. Even Sasha, there are probably some in the chess world that you don't necessarily like because they've got that a-hole kind of attitude and everything. So they exist even in the gaming world as well. I think that even Sasha would
agree. The
agree
smaller
with
the group, the fewer the a-holes, just because of statistics.
Demographics.
Makes sense and everything. Sasha, I didn't want to cut you off before I end the show. So if you have some final point that you want to make, but then we're getting ready to hit it and end and everything. But I know we've got other shows that are coming up, but I did want to defer to you to a final point if you had one, because I did see your hand and I do acknowledge
my
you.
question was actually addressed to Shaquille. When he mentioned there are 15 million Jews in the world today, I wanted to ask him if he's aware how many Jews were in the world in 1939. The answer is 18 million Jews. It's only one nation in the world which population today is less than it was in 1939. This is why it is important for anybody, whether you love Jews or hate Jews or indifferent to Jews, understand what means Holocaust for the Jews. It means never again. It means that today Israeli will fight until the last member of Hamas will be killed. Not how to properly say it politically correct. It should be eliminated. No, not
I think
eliminated.
everybody agrees that
Killed.
Hamas is a terrorist organization and needs to be eliminated. I think everybody, including those that are on the more liberal side, have said that as well, that it is definitely a terrorist organization. I actually think about the quote, and it's actually from a famous German pastor, but it's the one that is even relevant to this conversation. I think it was from Martin Niemöller, and his quote, when some folks cite other people at it, but the quote is, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. So I think that is very prevalent and definitely something that we need to think about, because it is definitely a powerful quote.
I would like to add something very quickly to what I just said before. I would like to add that there are three components.
Sasha, I want to respond to you. Sorry, I had left, but I want to respond to you. Sasha, what I've said on the show, and I'll say to you again now, is what has happened is absolutely deplorable, right? Mm-hmm. I don't support it. I don't know anybody who does support it. The only thing that I've said, which I think you disagree with, which is the same thing I said actually about the Ukraine and Russia, is if you believe that you have a position that is correct, whether it be that section of eastern Ukraine should become part of Russia, or that section of what is now Israel should really belong to the Palestinians. If that's your position, you have every right to advocate for that. Just like me being a Western Australian has every right to say that Western Australia should be a republic. Or those people who live in California should say that California should be a republic. Yeah, no problems. But the people who live in California don't have the right to go to Washington State or Oregon or, Nevada and use violence to prove their point. So that's all I was saying. I'm not going to get involved actually in the political dispute there, but I will call out evil when I see it. And what I absolutely detest is, please do not use my family's religion to justify your atrocities. And what has happened over there, the beheading of babies and just the general violence, is not what Islam is. And the Jewish people deserve to have a state. They deserve to live. They're the only democracy we have in the Middle East. And what has happened is a disgrace. And I think that we should actually say that every Palestinian group that jumps up and says, starts protesting for Palestine, we actually need to have more people who are of the Islamic and Christian religions standing up and saying, we support the Jewish people and we support their success in what they're going to do in relation to what's just happened. So again, I'm not getting involved in politics, but I can certainly say unequivocally what has just happened is absolutely wrong.
And I think everybody agrees.
Israeli response to what happened on October 7th. What should be Israeli response in your opinion?
Sasha, I can't tell you what the response should be, but I can say what it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be proportional. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Let's evacuate all the civilians. No, Israel should go in there and do everything that they possibly can to get rid of Hamas. And if there are civilian casualties, as sad as that may be, that's what they should do. Israel should do absolutely everything that is within their military capabilities to destroy that disgraceful regime. And unfortunately, there's going to be civilian casualties, but those civilian casualties are not caused by the Israelis. It's caused by Hamas. And the world should stop bullshitting and actually tell people that Hamas is causing this.
Actually, Israelis with this invasion of Gaza, they're trying to minimize the casualties among the peaceful Palestinians. There are such things as peaceful Palestinians. They're trying to minimize it, and I think they're doing a pretty good job. And
I don't, Sasha. I don't, because what the Israelis are doing, what the IDF is doing, what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing, is trying to pander to Western interests. The reality is, just after September 11, the US didn't do any of that pandering. The US just went in and killed everyone. Okay? Israel needs to stop pandering to the West and to go in there. And yes, there's going to be some unavoidable and unacceptable deaths. However, Israel needs to go in there, and when the world criticizes them, they just need to say, if it happened in your country, you'd have done it. Right?
As a matter of fact, Israel
and just go in and kill everyone.
Now for 2 weeks non-stop every day to move from Gaza to southern part of the Gaza Strip. Some people moved, some people didn't. But there is one interesting thing, even two. One, U.S. general on about 2 weeks ago, when it was just started, all this situation, he said in interview, I think it was on CNN, he said Israel has three objectives in this. First of all, elimination of Hamas. Second of all, to free the hostages. And three is to minimize casualties in the civil population of Gaza. Three. As much as you can. Okay. But here he goes. He continues.
Why? We don't do that in the West.
Hold on. He continues. He says that, but you have to prioritize which is priority number one, number two, number three, because you cannot achieve all three objectives equally. There is always one will be on top, then second one, and then third one. So he says, in my opinion, the priority number one, elimination of Hamas, full stop, period. Priority number two, to free the hostages. Number three, to minimize casualties among Palestinians. Now, I would like to mention something interesting. There is a huge outcry in the world about Palestinian casualties and so on and on and on, demonstration, as you know. So the game of Hamas was, okay, we'll go in, we'll kill as many Israelis as possible. Then we will come back. Of course, Israel will attack us. And then we will create outcry in all world that the peaceful Palestinians are being killed. Let's not allow Israel to do this and that and that. So there was no outcry.
That's my point. Just wait, Mark. But that's my point. That's exactly my point. Let's leave religion and race aside. When we met in Canada, right? And you were very gracious, introduced me to your family members, okay? If I turned around and looked at you and said, hey, Sasha, and then pulled my arm back and just punched you in the face, let's just say, right? Now, yes, I'm overweight and I'm not the fittest guy in the world, but I probably would have beaten you in a fight at that particular time, right? Because you wouldn't have been expecting it, okay? Then your family are there. Your sons are there. Your son-in-laws are there. And I say, yes, look, I punched Sasha in the face and I broke his nose. But let's just call it for a moment. Let's just calm down. Let's just have a ceasefire, right? That's not going to happen because your sons and your sons-in-law are going to want to punch me back and break my nose as well. Right?
She killed Sasha.
What are people confused about?
She killed Sasha because we got to end everything. But she killed Sasha along those same lines. And like I said, we're definitely going to end along those same lines. I was talking to a friend who's actually the friend I alluded to earlier and everything. And that's what he actually raised is what you just raised, Shaquille, which is that with what is going on with the money that is coming into both sides, and I would argue that there is some money coming into Israel as well from the West and everything. Are we not creating? Hold on a second, because this is my quick question, then we're gonna wrap the show. But are we not creating, to what Shaquille just said, which is what my friend Robert Trower brought up, with this notion of new generations of people that are hating each other? This war has gone on for decades and everything.
We've got a new generation of idiots, right? Because I don't hate anybody. I'm a different skin color to Sasha and his family. Sasha and his family have been incredibly.
But my point is that if you got that
incredibly,
just
let me finish. Mark, let me finish. Sasha and his family have been incredibly hospitable to me. His wife, his children, his grandchildren have been incredibly hospitable. Race was never brought up. Religion was never brought up. We went to a restaurant. We had a few games of chess. We had a few laughs, a couple of glasses of wine. It was fantastic. And the problem is that today we have a society which is so focused on race and religion and all these other issues that separate us, whereas the everyday person does exactly what I just did when I went to Ontario, where Sasha and I caught up. And if Sasha, Mark, and
hold on a second, anyway. So hold on a second, and we can talk about it offline.
Just let me finish my sentence. Where if Sasha and his family, or you and your family, or anybody else was to come to Australia and say, ring me up and go, hey, Shaquille, I'm coming to Australia. I'd like, hey, where's your flight? I'm going to pick you up from the airport. I'll show you around. Let me show you a thing. And I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care where you're actually from. I know you. Cool, let's hang out. That's what Sasha and I had. That's what I have with most people around the Western world. And that's been taken away from us because of woke bullshit politics.
It's not woke politics.
And that shouldn't be taken away from us.
Hold a second, because I was actually going to ask Sasha something that was asked to me, because that same friend that I alluded to and everything was actually of the opinion that you are of as well, because he felt that Hamas, to put it blatantly, was, one, they were stupid in terms of political thing and everything, because he said, why would you go attack somebody that you know has got bigger weapons and all along those lines, because those bigger weapons are going to crush you in a matter of a minute and all in that space. So they knew that when they made the attack. So his feeling and this friend was that they may be raising for new people that are going to have that kind of hatred, because they have seen, like I said, you go out and you tilt at them like with a kitchen knife, and you're going to get taken out with like guns and bazookas and everything.
It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter politically or otherwise, right? I've beaten Sasha a couple of times in chess. Okay, why? Only because he was generous enough, and a couple of times I goaded him into it. Right, he was generous enough to let me have King's Gambit, which is my game. I love King's Gambit, right? So I sort of bullied him into it. Come on, Sasha, I'll buy you a drink. Give me King's Gambit. So he gave it to me, right? So I know that sounds a bit silly, but when it comes to politics, it's kind of the same thing. You make trade-offs, right? You make trade-offs with things. You accept this thing and you don't accept the other thing, etc. Right? If I thought that Sasha let me have King's Gambit because we're friends and all right, Shaquille, I don't know the line so well, I'll let you do it. Yeah, we'll have a bit of fun. No, but if Sasha had said to me, if Sasha had said to me the first time we played King's Gambit in person, if Sasha had said, look, I wouldn't ordinarily let you do this because I know that you know this line really well. But because you're not white, because you're a person of color, I'm going to let you have the King's Gambit. Or even if you didn't say it.
We're not doing that. Hold
on a second. Even if he didn't say it, but I felt like that's what he was thinking. Do you know how upset and offended I would have been
Well, like I
right?
said,
I would rather sit there and say,
Shaquille, that's a whole other
I know that it's
conversation.
fine,
We
but I
can
would
bring
do
that up
this.
on another
I
show at
don't want
another
him to
time. I'm
do
not
it
going to
because
get into
the
that
cost must
discussion
stand.
right now at this particular time when we're ending the show and we've got other shows that are coming up on the network. It's one in charge of programming. I'm going to get to the programming side, and we're going to do other things as well. So in that side, we can have this conversation at a later time. Sasha, looking forward to having more of your shows. I've not forgot the links. You will be getting your links for the shows.
Okay.
No problem.